Hey, what's up everyone, Nick here with a video talking about the DCEU. Now, with this week's video, I wanted to just talk about the DC Extended Universe as a whole and whether or not it is riding off the success of Suicide Squad alone. Now, personally, I think this is a yes and no answer. For the one hand, I think yes it is, but on the other hand, I think it's riding off the combined success and reception of Suicide Squad and Wonder Woman, which is scheduled to release next June. So let's take a look at some numbers here. Now, some of the actors of Suicide Squad have talked about how the production budget was enormous on the film, and with one actor saying that the budget was north of $250 million on Suicide Squad. Just the production budget, none of the marketing, none of that. Just the money that it took to actually make the movie. And we recently learned that Wonder Woman had a production budget of $150 million. So if you take both of these movies and put them together, Warner Brothers is spending $400 million on both of these movies. And that's not counting the extensive reshoots that Suicide Squad recently had in Los Angeles to help flesh out the third act of that film, which has been talked about as a mess. Now let's also take a look at Batman v Superman, which had a production budget of around $410 million, including marketing and advertising materials, and has ultimately racked in about $871 million at the worldwide box office, barely breaking even. So after these numbers, let's just take a look at these as a whole. Now, obviously Batman v Superman was a disappointment. No way you slice it, even if you loved the film, you hated it. It was just a box office disappointment. It opened very large, and then it had a historical drop-off in its second and third weekends, even getting beaten out by a Melissa McCarthy comedy film with almost no other competition that month. Now, this is a huge issue for Warner Brothers when you can't have their massive IPs, Batman, Superman, and the introduction of Wonder Woman in the cinematic format. When you have a film that fails with those three characters, Warner Brothers is in hot water. Now, Suicide Squad is going to obviously inform a lot of people's opinions on DC going forward, because we've had Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, both very controversial films, almost split down the middle with fans and critics. Maybe more so Batman v Superman, which had a much bigger backlash. Now, recently Suicide Squad's marketing has shifted the tone to a more fun, energetic type of movie, which is contrast to Batman v Superman's trailers and marketing material, which is also contrast to Suicide Squad's first official look, which leaked last year at Comic-Con. This very dark, moody trailer, and both of the successor trailers to it have been very bright, fun, colorful, full of jokes, and themed music. Now, I think Suicide Squad had some recent fan screenings as well. We can obviously equate into the discussion here. So recently Suicide Squad tested supposedly rumored screenings. We don't know the credibility of these screenings. However, we do know that people did talk about them on Twitter, even though I'm not sure how or why they would be able to talk about them, because I myself have personally done early access screenings. I even saw a screening of Deadpool October the year before the movie even came out, so around 5 or 6 months before the movie opened, and I was sworn to secrecy on that. I only briefly spoke about it with the guys on the Hybrid Network, but even that I was a little worried about. So I'm not sure why these people are allowed to talk about the film on Twitter, maybe just to generate buzz after the abysmal response to Batman v Superman, and Warner Brothers just really trying to get people back on DC's side. But let's talk about these supposed fan screenings. So both of them had very good reactions. The people were buzzing about them, saying, oh, it's the greatest DC film since The Dark Knight, which is pretty monumental praise, because The Dark Knight is regarded as probably the best comic book film ever made, and probably will be for a while. So these people buzzing about the film, is it true or not? Well, personally, I'm kind of mixed about it. Maybe they happened, maybe they didn't. I'm just very curious as to the credibility of the people talking about it on Twitter, and why the studio like Warner Brothers would let them talk about it this far in advance. So I'm not going to really look at those fan screenings as any definite answers as to whether Suicide Squad is going to be a masterpiece or not, because, you know, they're fan screenings. People go to these because they are fans of the properties. They're not the general audience, and you really just can't look at those as like an objective opinion on the film. Now let's also talk about Justice League, which is set to premiere after Wonder Woman, and this is going to be the first post-BVS Fallout film, and is likely under the heavy control of Geoff Johns and Ben Affleck, who signed on as executive producer, and we know Geoff Johns is now head of DC Films, with John Berg at Warner Brothers. So the production for this film has been almost radio silent. We've gotten nothing, and I mean nothing, from the production. No set pictures, no tweets, no updates, updates, no behind the scenes photos, just nothing. And I'm not sure if this is cause for worry on the film itself, but it is very troubling to know that there's literally nothing coming out from the Justice League movie. And I do know that they are filming on sound stages in London, so that could be possibly why, because the stages are heavily guarded and no one else can get in apart from production crew, which makes sense, but it also is kind of weird that someone like Zack Snyder hasn't been tweeting out cryptic photos from the set of Justice League, even just like really cryptic stuff, or even just like a picture of himself standing in front of a door saying Justice League Week 3 or something, or hashtag Rise of the Seven Seas, something like that. Zack Snyder is the type of guy that does stuff like that. Just look back at Batman v Superman when he unveiled the first couple photos of the Batmobile and Ben Affleck in costume, and that funny picture of him arresting the Stormtrooper after stealing the Batmobile. I mean, we've got nothing like that from Justice League, and that's a little bit worrying, but maybe because Warner Brothers has their thumb over the production this time, as opposed to Batman v Superman where it seemed like Zack Snyder was just running the whole show. So back to my original question, as we've taken a look at everything analytically here, is the DC Extended Universe writing off Suicide Squad? At this point, I think it might be. I think Wonder Woman is a little too far off to judge at this point. We haven't really seen much of it, apart from like a 1-minute little sizzle reel that aired earlier this year, and I'm sure we'll get a trailer at this year's San Diego Comic-Con in just a short month, But I think that a lot of things are writing off Suicide Squad. One, this movie has to be a box office mega hit. It has to overperform expectations. It has to wow critics and audiences. It has to have at least an 80% or more on Rotten Tomatoes to have it appear to be a success, and for fans and just general audience members to get back behind DC, because right now I think DC is at its lowest point in terms of films. It's booming on television, the comics are great with DC Rebirth, but the films are somehow struggling, and I don't really know why. And I think a lot of that did attribute to the way of the old guard that they used to deal with these execs and people that don't really understand or appreciate the characters, and maybe Jeff Johns will be able to steer them in the right direction. But like I said, a lot of things are riding on Suicide Squad and Wonder Woman, but Wonder Woman's a little further off, so I think the main focus is on Suicide Squad. Like, all eyes are on that movie, and if that movie somehow fails critically or just doesn't perform well, like maybe like it brings in 500 million, it will be looked at as a disappointment, and Warner Brothers will be in very, very hot water, because now they've had two big DC properties both perform modest and soft box office returns at this year's box office. And a lot of people have to take into account and realize this, that before this year, before 2016, people were looking at this year as, wow, this is going to usher in this new age of comic book movies. Now we're getting Civil War, Batman vs Superman on the cinematic screen. We're getting a movie about Suicide Squad. We're getting a Doctor Strange movie. This was the year that was going to usher in the next phase of comic book movies, which we're getting to the next 5 years, where people are laying out their whole cinematic plans for 10 years to go ahead. This is the year that was a transitionary year, and I think that ultimately a lot of things have misfired. I'm not going to talk about Marvel stuff, but yeah, X-Men Apocalypse. But anyways, a lot of things are writing off Suicide Squad, to get back to my original point, and that is the issue, I think, for Warner Brothers, that they're putting all their faith in a movie about villains that no one really knows about, and, it is worrying, and it is troubling, but I think that, and I really hope that it's a good movie, because I think DC just needs a win at this point. They really need a movie to knock out of the park, to do well, and to do great things for the fans, and more importantly, to get fans back behind them. So anyways, post your thoughts down in the comment section below. Do you agree with me, and do you not agree with me? Let me hear your discussion, because I really want to get this as a good, evolving discussion in the comment section below. Do you think everything is riding off Suicide Squad's success? Do you think that people are really looking at that movie, okay, this is going to be the make or break it movie? We've had Batman v Superman, Man of Steel, both directed by Zack Snyder. That's another interesting point. This is going to be the first DCEU movie not directed by Zack Snyder. So if this movie succeeds, then Warner Brothers can almost certainly point out that Zack Snyder is a big issue, and he will definitely not be on Justice League 2. So anyways, like I said, post all your thoughts down in the comment section below. Let's get this thing going in a good, healthy discussion. No name calling or anything like that. Just like, civilized discussion. What are your thoughts? Because we all are fans of this property. We're all fans of the DC characters, and we want to see them succeed in the cinematic realm. So leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. If you like this video and you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button down there. Click the like button because it helps us out a lot. If you want to consider supporting us on Patreon, that would be awesome. We also have a new Twitch channel for live streaming game footage and other discussions, so go over to twitch.tv/pressplayofficial and follow us on there. My name is Nick, and I will catch you guys next time.